Hello everyone, my name is Jun. It's been a while. I appreciate you watching my video. This time, I will repair this damaged watch. The dial has a big rose, which is the symbol of Tudor. It had seen better days. It now has a miserable look though. This watch was being sold for parts, and the seller described that some parts were missing. I don't know which parts are missing and how many are original. Let's get started. Here is the movement. It looks fine, but it is not, because some parts are not original. The wheel train bridge looks correct, but the balance wheel is not original because Tudor did not use Inca block shot settings. Also, the barrel bridge is incorrect. Probably from another movement, because there is a strange gap here. The case was also in poor condition. I think it is original, but it has some cracks. It's a shame, as there is nothing that I can do about it. I think this watch was used as a donor to give good parts to other watches, and in return it received compromised parts from others instead. The base plate is genuine Tudor, stamped Tudor 1156, and features key shock protection. On the back of the dial, we can see the engraving ALDOC, which may be the manufacturer's name. That's all we know so far. I'm taking the movement apart to inspect and clean it further. The Tudor 1156 movement is based on the ETA 1080 movement. Tudor has made some improvements, but most of the parts are identical. This means that this movement must be a Frankenstein movement composed of original Tudor parts and donor parts from an ETA movement. Let's talk about Frankenstein watches, or Franken watches, as they are called. These are watches that are assembled with parts that are not originally used in the original watch. The term often has a negative connotation of counterfeiting, because passing off a Franken watch as genuine, especially to deceive collectors, is considered unethical. On the other hand, it is common for vintage watches to use parts from other watches or generic or compatible parts. Because genuine parts can be difficult to get, they are often not provided by manufacturers, and the manufacturers will refuse to repair or charge very high repair costs. In my opinion, Franken watches are not fake watches. As long as you don't mind, you can go for it. But if you want to keep away from such watches, you need to understand the specific details of the watch and be suspicious of low prices. I buy watches online, and whenever I buy a new watch, I always use Google image search to compare every detail. Dial color, indices, hand shape, case, and if possible, the movement. If you can't find the exact same model on the internet, that's a red flag. It must be a fake or a Franken watch. Alright, back to the video. I took the movement apart. Only a few parts were missing and the others were a bit rusty, but usable. Now I'm focusing on the biggest problem. The paint on the dial has completely peeled off, so I decided to paint it myself. I sanded the surface to make it even. I couldn't remove all the dents and scratches, but it's better than sanding too much. Next, I used a metal polishing compound to polish the surface. I used a toothbrush, technically speaking, electric toothbrush to polish the details. There are still scratches on the surface, but it's okay because they can be hidden with a primer paint. As a final cleaning before painting, I used a degreaser. Then I used a primer paint as an undercoat to conceal the imperfection on the dial. I choose matte black as the color. Matte black will create a nice contrast with the indices. After it dries, use a knife blade to remove the paint from the index. And here it is. It turned out better than I expected. Now let's move onto the movement. I do a pre-cleaning to remove any old oil and grease from gels and plates. Then I clean the parts using a watch parts cleaner with an ultrasonic cleaner. I rinsed the parts with water, and for the final rinse I used isopropyl alcohol. We can not use IPA on the balance wheel and the pallet fork, so I used benzene instead. Now all the parts are ready to be assembled. Let's put the parts back together and oil them. This movement is a classic Swiss movement. I love working with this type of movement. It's simple, robust, and easy to maintain. It is designed to last for decades. ETA movements are also used in many watches, and affordable replacement parts are easy to find. The worst case scenario would have been to buy an entire ETA 1080 movement, but that didn't happen this time. I'm assembling the gear train. I installed the fourth, third, and the second wheel in order. This is hindsight, but I realized that I should have installed the escape wheel cap jewel before installing the bridge. Behind the camera, I applied some oil to the gels on both sides. You can apply oil after you install the balance wheel, but I like to do it as soon as possible before I forget. Now I'm assembling the winding mechanism. The crown wheel screw is reverse threaded, so it needs to be turned to the left. This side is pretty much assembled. So let's move on to the dial side to assemble the time setting mechanism. It didn't come with the crown wheel, but I was able to buy one on eBay in the US for a few dollars. The shipping cost was more than the part cost, but well, it's unavoidable. I needed one more part. That was the setting spring. This one. It came from Canada. It wasn't expensive ETA and it looks like new. No complaints. And surprisingly, it arrived within a week, even though I'm in Japan. So far, so good. No warning signs. This looks promising. I lubricated the pallet fork and installed it. I wind the main spring a few times to install the balance assembly. It's working. That's a relief. So I cleaned and lubricated the balance jewels. The dial side has a kiff shock setting. It's probably an original part. This is my first time working on a shock setting like this. I cleaned and lubricated the jewels and put it back. Closing the spring was a bit difficult because I needed to hold it down while turning it. To be honest, it works, but it doesn't perform very well. For example, when it's on a desk with the dial facing up, it works with an acceptable error, such as less than 1 minute delay per day. However, when I wear it on my wrist, there are some noticeable delays, up to a few minutes per hour. It's not always, but I don't know why. It's beyond repair. It's probably due to the wrong parts being used in the movement, especially the balance assembly. To be fair, as I said, this was sold as a part, not a watch. The seller was very kind. They didn't scam me. I knew what it was, and then I bought it. Anyway, that's why you should avoid buying a Franken watch, and Franken watches are never appreciated. I closed the case with a new gasket and completed the repair. This is the final result. Now it's officially a Franken watch. Can I call it a Tudor watch? No, I don't think so. But it's a nice vintage watch brought back to life. It's not suitable for weekday wear, but it's fun to wear on weekends and days off. That's all for today's video. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. The next video will be released soon. Until next time. Bye bye.